There's no greater investment. But how should we invest properly and why should we care? No worries, because this evening is going to be all about seeking potential in yourself. A wonderful evening to everyone. I'm your host, 𝗬𝗲𝗃𝗿𝗍. On behalf of the organizing committee of Let's Talk IEEE Young Professionals Sri Lanka, I warmly welcome you all for the fourth talk session, Coping with Change, of the talk series, Spark Your Inner Self. Taking another step forward, Let's Talk IEEE Young Professionals Sri Lanka organized this event to frame sensible industrialists as well as young professionals who are still following their goals and interests. First of all, I cordially invite Kiran Hasankar, Finance Team Lead of our IEEE Let's Talk for the year 2022, to welcome the gathering. Over to you, Hiran.
Hello, am I audible, 𝗬𝗲𝗃𝗿?
Yes.
All right, cool, thanks. Good evening, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. So, in this evening, it is my pleasure and honor to welcome our guest speaker for today's session, Mr. Mangala Perera, all executive members of IEEE Young Professionals Sri Lanka, and our delegates who are present here today at the event. Today, IEEE Let's Talk unfolds their fourth episode in Spark Your Inner Self talk series under the theme of coping with change, which will be focused on maintaining the ability of young professionals to adapt to changes appropriately. I strongly believe that this session will be an opportunity in developing that spark within you. So I wish you all the best of luck and hope this session would be something remarkable for all of you. Thank you, and back to you, 𝗬𝗲𝗃𝗿.
Thank you, Hiran, for that excellent kickoff. Now it's time to introduce the spark for today's event. Our guest speaker, Mr. Mangala Perera. He is a mastermind with 23 plus years of experience in many sectors like building high-performing teams, coaching leaders, talent management, and the IT industry with his software management knowledge. A great personality with a BSc Honors in Computer Science from the University of Colombo, and a MBA in Human Resource Management and Services from Cardiff Metropolitan University. He was working in the IT industry for a vast period of time, holding numerous positions under his name. He has worked in renowned companies like IFS, being the vice president and the head of R&D, and currently working as a partner and chief operating officer at Root Code Labs, a board member of the Center of IT Educational Services at Open University of Sri Lanka. Not only that, he is also the general council member in SLASCO. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our guest speaker, Mr. Mangala Perera. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, 𝗬𝗲𝗃𝗿, for that nice introduction. Just give me a minute. All right, you can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. So, good evening, everyone. And first of all, sorry for taking your over the evening. And if you want to blame someone, that should be me, because organizing committee wanted to organize it yesterday, but I had some conflicting appointment. Because of that, we have moved it to this today. And sorry for taking your for the evening, but I'll try my best to share my knowledge and give you some insight and make sure that you will have some takeaways after this session. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Good. And let's talk about the change and how to cope with the change. But when you, if you talk about the change is a broader topic. At the same time, it's a deep topic as well. So starting with it has a big spectrum. Starting with like it can be a change that you want to go through to cut and polish yourself to become a diamond, or it can be in the corporate we have been talking about the change every day. We are talking about how we can transform organization to because we need to be at the same pace as the world is changing around us, the way that the industry is also changing around us. We are talking about don't change Facebook now, someone else would do. And at the same time, we are nowadays talking about the crisis that we are going through. It's a huge change in the world, and also in Sri Lanka, we are going through a tough time as well. So I was actually thinking what I should pick for today, because I'm too bad when talking too long. That is because too long to an audience. The reason is I'm too bad listening to someone from the audience for a longer time. I fall asleep, then I can understand you as well. Because I don't want to. I will not take 2 hours or 1.5 hours for this session, but I'll try to share my insights and knowledge around coping with change within 1 hour. So then I have to pick topics, right? So I can't be everywhere. Then it will be too much for you to digest and understand. So I'm not going to talk about how you can change yourself to become a diamond. No, I'm not going to talk about how organization can go through big change management, and then I have to go through a lot of theories and models. But let's talk about current situation. And also I got to know from the organizing committee, most of you are IT, basically undergraduates, and also most of you are IT undergraduates, or probably you are fresh graduates, those who just passed out from the uni and are waiting for joining the industry or just joined the industry. So what I thought was to organize my thoughts around the current crisis that we all are going through. It's a crisis, right? And also it's a big change as well. So we'll focus on that, and let's see how we can cope the change around us today, especially in Sri Lanka. To start with, change is scary. It doesn't matter whatever the change is. Right? Even when you change, some of the subjects that you're going to do, it's scary, and it can be, it doesn't matter how big or small the change is. It's always scary. The reason why it is scary is that is how the brain works. Brain always think about the worst case scenarios in the future. Let's talk about the crisis, financial crisis that we are going through now. So that's already brought a big change for us. And if you think about the future, I don't know, if you're a fresh graduate, you might be thinking, what would happen to the industry? Will I have jobs when I come out of the university? And will we have power? And will we have fuel, medicine, food? So when you think about the future, it's inevitable. Brain is first focuses on worst case scenario and how it affects you. If it's about a recession, then people start to think about what would happen to my company, and if company fail, then I lose my job. If I lose my job, what will happen to my career and all my dependents? The reason why the brain works like this is, we have been evolving for I think 5-6 million years. Right? During that time, I assume that we civilized ourselves a couple of thousand years ago. But before that, I mean, our ancestors were living in jungles. Right? So I assume, we have been playing probably prey and the predator role time to time, but most of the time, we can be, playing the role as prey. So then there won't be big difference than impalas that you see in Discovery versus our ancestors. Like, if they see bushes rustle, they think like, there is someone hiding behind that, right? It can be a tiger, it can be a lion, it can be a pack of hyenas. So then if
someone decides to run, then we all run. Right? That is how you see in Discovery. That is how, prey try to save their life. So this could be the same reason why our brain is, regardless of whatever the change that you are going through, initially they focus, the brain focuses on worst case scenario. So to cope with this change, we need to understand things around us, at the same time, things within us as well. First, brain. Then there's another factor, media and journalists. They know our weakness and they know how to sell their ideas. And unfortunately, some of them are, on someone else's payroll, can be politicians, you never know, right? So journalists and media people, they know exactly what to say. They normally don't, share news or saying like there is no shooting in particular cities. They will basically tell there is a shooting in a school in this city, right? But then we have to, train our brain how to digest news and how to filter news and look at news with facts, and we call it factfulness. And unfortunately, a few decades ago, there were few journalists in the world, and we have been talking a lot about, the media ethics. We have been talking a lot about why they should not offend women and why they should not, write racist articles. But recently, there are so many journalists or media people join this gap. Now, you all know, if you have a camera and if you have a keyboard, if you have access to any kind of media, including social media, you can become a journalist. You can become a media person. So now the problem we have is when we are going through big changes, big crises like this, everyone has their opinion. Everyone has their own agenda. So because of that, we hear a lot of background noise, a lot of background opinion. And the most difficult thing nowadays to go through or coping with changes or going through crisis is the disturbance that we get, from media, to be honest. So for us to actually get through the changes and coping with changes and making sure that we are handling crisis well, we need to make sure that we don't get disturbed with all these people. At the same time, we need to focus on what is the right thing we should do to cope with the change. Because if you take those, media people, I know you all know this, the sky is falling story, right? I think we all heard that from either from parents or teachers. If you haven't heard about it, like, there was a hen. It heard, kind of a noise, and then it thought like the sky is falling. It started to, run, screaming. Sky is falling, and all animals just followed her. So if you take media today, and you can hear a lot of sky is falling kind of news, because they know that this is what we would like to read, we would like to believe. And at the same time, there are some journalists. I don't know how many of you have watched this movie. This is a new movie in Netflix called Don't Look Up. So here it's about two astronomy professors, and they have observed a huge comet coming towards the world, and they are also telling like, sky is falling, but no one is listening to them, especially the politicians and media people, because they want to navigate this story around, their political agenda. So if you take today, when we go through the change and also when we are going through this crisis, if you take all these media people, social media to newspapers to TV channels, so they all are, basically playing a role here. Some of them, as I said, are part of someone else's payroll. And you can see like, sky is falling kind of stories from those chicken, this hen to that professor. So that is why that we need to make sure that we are always looking at facts. We are not really, carried away with manipulated facts to prove their opinion, and to make sure that you don't get disturbed with all this. Because, as I said, that change is scary. We still don't know how, as a country, how we can come out of it. I'm not going to comment on it because that is not my area. I'm not a politician. I'm not expert in economics. But we all know that where we are. But how do you, as as young professionals, now focus on what you should do now, without getting disturbed with all these noises coming from all media people about sky is falling? Some are telling truth, and some are just speculations. And there's a saying in the world, there are two things which will change the world in a way that world would not go back to where we were. One is pandemic, the other one is war. If you take last 3 years, now we are experiencing both. We all know that last 3 years, COVID-19 came. It has changed a lot of things, even the way that we have been working and the way you have been learning, and the way we are wearing masks to everything, and even handshaking. There are so many things has changed because of this pandemic period. At the same time, there are so many good things came, like online education, online meetings, and working from home. It has changed the world in a way that even after pandemic, I'm pretty sure that we will not go back to where we were before. But at the same time, we know that the war situation we have in other side of the world, the Russia and Ukraine scenario, that has impacted a lot, and because of that, the whole world is now entered to a recession. We are going towards one of the, I don't know, that can be again manipulated, inflated news items, but looking at it, it is also a bit scary. So we are going towards a recession, not only in Sri Lanka. It's a world recession because of energy crisis and also food crisis based on, the war we have in other part of the world. So that has impacted a lot of businesses, and it will have consequences in the industry. We never know. We need to look at it. And then, unfortunately, countries which have corrupted system and corrupted politician they're suffering a lot, and unfortunately we are one of them. So this is the change, what is happening around you right now. And during this change, how you can actually focus to do your next best thing. Because I strongly believe every time when we go through any kind of change or crisis, they're saying, everything will be over, right? We normally say this too shall pass. But when we come out of the wood, when we come out of this crisis, I really want all of you to, spend your time focusing on equipping yourself to preparing yourself to, basically grab all the opportunities that is available in the industry that you're going to join. Yeah, so this is the fact, and we can't deny it. And the best way to handle change is first accept it. Now you can't, of course, you can't. You can try and say like, we didn't do anything wrong, why we are suffering like that, but it will not help you. I have seen many, diabetes patients, those who are not accepting that they're having diabetes, but what they do is every month they test their blood, but they don't go for taking medicines like insulin or controlling their food, or doing some exercises to have some good habits while focusing what is the best thing they should do. They don't admit. I think whatever the change that you're going through, first thing that we all need to do. Just accept. Don't be like this polar bear thinking, things will be fine. But we need to accept it. And then while accepting it, I know it's sometimes good to think about why it has happened. But if you keep talking about why it has happened, we will not really focus on what we should do now. And it's good to talk about why, because then you learn, learn from mistakes, and we will not do the same mistakes again. But at the same time, I want all of you to focus on what is the next best thing that you should do as young professionals to prepare yourself when you come out of this crisis and also this change. At the same time, you need to understand sometimes, changes are not always bad. Of course, if it is a good or bad, it all depends on how many bad consequences and good consequences we get because of the change. But sometimes they have some good consequences as well. Since I assume that most of you are IT graduates. Sorry if you're from different domains and want to join the different industries. But if we talk about the IT industry and the changes, what has happened in the IT industry, before that, I missed that. So let's go back to accepting the change. Sorry, guys. When we have concerns, when we have issues, and when we have worries around what is happening around us during a change, there are so many concerns that we have. And if you take all these concerns, if you put all these concerns into one set, and then if you find the concerns that you can influence, so this is how you can actually keep your focus during the change, so that you don't waste your energy and also you don't waste your focus. So this is a concept introduced by 𝗬𝗲𝗿𝗍 in his one of the best-selling books, then 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I really recommend you guys to read that book, because it's basically focusing on 7 habits that anyone should have to be a very effective person. So the concept is, if you put all your concerns that you have today, can be changing governments, to changing systems, to the worries about the financial crisis, to it can be your worries about your final year project. Put all your concerns into maybe you can write down all your concerns, then categorize them, the things that you have influence and you have control, and the things that you don't have control, but you can influence. So if you focus more on things that you can't control, then basically that is called reactive focus. And if you focus on the things that you can control, at the same time, things you can influence, this is called proactive focus. My experience is those who are focusing, whatever the background noises, whatever the background disturbance that you get, those who are focusing on the things that you can control and things that you can influence are the ones basically becoming most effective people. It doesn't matter which industry that you're going to join. And those who are focusing on outside, the things that they can't control, they will become victims. They're the one who's always, becoming the victim of. It could be. I think you have probably heard about those stories, because of my parents, because of my friends, because of my teachers, because of our education system. This has happened to me, kind of people. So because their main concern, main worries are the things that they can't control, and they don't produce results. But those who are focusing on the things that they can change, things that they can influence, they are very likely to produce results. And when you produce results, the nice thing with this model is that you can increase your influence circle. For example, if you join a company as a entry-level person, you might see a lot of things that you need to change in the company. But if you focus on what you can do and what you can influence, then you will produce more results. So when you produce more results, you will be recognized and you will get promotions. And when you get more promotions, you get more influence. And you can even go to become a CEO and change everything that you didn't like in the company. But if you are a person who is focusing on things that you don't have control, and then you will become a victim, and you can keep complaining about things, but if you're not producing results, you basically, these kind of people will shrink their influence circle, and that is not where anyone wants to be. Right? Let's go back to the next topic. I jumped, sorry about it. And the industry, because if you take IT industry, I always tell one of the most fortunate industries or blessed industries at the moment during this crisis and during this change created by the pandemic. One great thing happened during this change, because when you are in a change, you can, as I said, we will speculate a lot of things. We will think about worst case scenarios. We will think about how it will affect to us, and we will hear a lot of negative things, and we will, by sharing too many negative things, we will be in a negative spiral, and we might even dig our own grave together when we talk, when we focus on too much of negativity in the change. But every change has some positive stuff and good things coming with change, even though overall change is bad. One really good thing happened was working from home. Because I have been in a lot of leadership calls, leadership meetings, to be honest. Of course, those days you don't live in the office. And during my last 25 years of career, and a lot of leaders and managers are saying, like, working from home won't work. And they feel uncomfortable when they can't see their employees monitor, if they don't know what they're doing. And I had a lot of fights, a lot of discussions. Trust them, even though they are looking at Netflix. So with this, changes happen because of this pandemic. We haven't had any choice. That's what I said, that pandemic and war can change the world, because pandemic and war can push us to do things that we were scared to do. Last couple of years, we all had no other options, right? So, then IT companies, and not only IT companies, all companies, those who can work from home, they start to trust their employee, and then they realize it is working. And to be honest, working from home is working. That is, of course, there are negatives, whatever the scenario, because there are things that we missed because of working from home. I'll actually talk about it later on, how we can actually creatively find ways to find alternatives, the things that we missed during the change. But one really good thing happened was working from home, because that helped us to save time and save energy, to be honest, and even save money by cutting travel time, commuting time. The next thing, when I'm talking about, globally, when companies realize that their employees can work from home, they don't have to actually come to the office always. They realize that then they can have employees from anywhere. If you take the most developed, expensive countries, those CEOs, it's not only IT. They have realized there are so many jobs that they have. Probably they can move those jobs to cost-effective countries like us. That has created remote working more. At the same time, that brought another concept called digital nomad. That means you can go anywhere, you can work from anywhere. So that has created a lot of opportunities. And this has created more and more jobs as well. Like if you take the industry now, there are so many opportunities came to Sri Lanka in the IT industry. At the same time, there are so many opportunities that people found to work as freelancers, to work directly with the foreign companies. So this has created, opened so many, open doors for so many opportunities. Then I know that the rupee depreciated really fast, and overnight it went from 200 rupees per dollar to 300, and now it is 360. And then if you take IT industry and all export industries, they are earning money from foreign currencies. Another thing happened in this IT, particularly in IT industry. Most of the companies, those who are earning through foreign currencies, they started to think about how we can help our employees by paying extra incentive to make sure that they don't feel that they don't feel the inflation due to the depreciation of the rupee. And this is another, I'm not saying good or bad thing, but this is one of the reasons that I said that IT industry is one of the best industries. But at the same time, we need to have empathy towards other industries and others those who are really suffering from this inflation. But one good thing which has done by a lot of companies, a lot of IT companies, they started to pay extra incentive. They have done it in many different ways, pegging your salaries to dollars or euros, to paying a flat percentage from your salaries to different percentages based on your salary. Different companies are doing it differently, but most of the companies, I would say like more than 90% of IT companies are doing something to make sure that their employees are not affected by the inflation because of the depreciation. So there's, that's one thing that I can say. This is a blessed industry that you are going to join if you are going to join, IT industry. Then the other thing is another, the blessing for this industry. To navigate through this change. If we can have power, if we can have internet, you can do your job. Even if you don't have power for a couple of hours, laptop battery will last. So this is another reason that we can, if you take IT industry particularly, we are pretty sure that we can navigate through this crisis, navigate through this change until we come out of the wood. Yeah. And the fifth one, talking again more about IT industry, because I'm talking about more about IT industry because I assume that most of you are planning to join the IT industry or already joined the industry. So, because if you look at the crisis and the change that we are going through, if you only focus on negative stuff, then we will not pump up to come out of this crisis by finding creative ways to find alternatives to come out of it. But there are some positives as well that you can focus. The fifth one is, even though we are going through a crisis, even though the world is going through a recession, almost all IT companies in Sri Lanka are growing. They are hiring. And even though some companies have decided to open up backup sites or second sites in other countries, apart from very few companies, none of other companies are going to reduce their staff here. Instead, they are going to do the opposite. They want to hire more. So anyway, we had a talent gap, demand versus supply from the universities. I think a year ago, the gap was a couple of thousands. Mean that we don't have enough talents in Sri Lanka to expand our companies the way that we want to expand. Opportunity point of view, still these opportunities are there, and you don't have to worry about job security when you are going through this crisis because IT companies are anyway growing. At the same time, the main challenge is if we don't get right people, then we will not have. So because if you take almost all these IT companies, they are, they're working projects up. Most of those projects are overseas projects. So we really can't afford to hire in wrong people. So having opportunities within the industry, or say there is a talent gap in the industry, doesn't mean that industry will hire anyone. Industry will only hire the right people. That is why that you need to prepare. If you are a undergraduate, if you are just about to finish your degree in a couple of years, so take your time now and make sure you do your best during the university period to come out from the universities as a as a young professional industry is looking for. And then, as I said, the things that you need to focus to come out of this crisis and come out of this change that we are going through right now. The first thing that you need to be is a solution-oriented person. Because we have enough problem-oriented people because who are talking a lot about problems. They always focus on problems. It's okay to focus on problems when you realize the problem, but if you keep talking about problems, you will not find solution. So one thing that you need to train and focus is to become a solution-oriented person. Every time when you see a problem, just think about it. There should be a solution for it. Need to find. I think you have to be creative to find alternatives as well. Sometimes might not be same way that you have been doing things. Let's say like you're studying from home, and it is not perfect. We all know that. You will save travel time and you will save some money, and you get food from your parents, and it's cozy life. But at the same time, you will lose working with people, meeting people, talking to each other. You will meet. In the uni, we do a lot of things together. At the uni, we're not going to uni just to study only, but there are so many things happen when you meet people physically. Of course, you will miss those things, but at the same time, you can be creative to find ways how you can find alternatives to replace what you're going to miss. I thought actually share two examples from this, how you can become creative. During the COVID period, we all were working from home, and then we did a survey after the lockdown is over. We opened the office, and we have been thinking of expanding the office as well. So when we did a survey among our employees and asked, a few questions about working from home, so all of them said that majority, more than 90%, believe working from home is working very well. It's productive, but they mentioned they missed coffee time. Talking to each other and meeting people. Then one of the employees came up with a creative idea. We use Slack, as our communication platform within the organization. So the idea is to create a channel called Coffee Room. And if anyone wants to have a coffee at home, but looking for some company, you just drop a message, coffee anybody. So then you have a shortcut link in this channel. Is for a Google Meet. You can join the Google Meet and have a coffee with others. So this is this is what we call solution-oriented people rather than complaining. We can't travel, we can't come to office, we can't meet people, we can't have a coffee, and we can't have fun. And then they found they can even play some online games, which they couldn't do that if they go to the pantry area or canteen to have a coffee. So then a lot of teams started to using it. If someone wants to have a coffee, looking for some company, they drop a message there. Then they join online and have the coffee and enjoy together. So this is one of those things that I want to tell. Try to be creative to find alternatives when you're going through the challenge. You might not find perfect one-to-one replacement, but you can find alternatives. Some alternatives can be better than what you had before. Next example, I thought actually twice to add this slide. This might perceive as bragging. That's about me. And during the fuel crisis, I had to go to office 2 days per week for a couple of weeks. And then, I started to cycle to the office, 30 kilometers. And then I actually found I only last 25 minutes if I drive, even taking the highway, but no traffic. And for 30 kilometers, it took only 1.5 hours for me to cycle to the office. I know it's not perfect, but it is in a way good for the fitness. But you can have counter arguments around it. Like anyone could say bicycles are expensive. Not everyone can afford. No argument. Then it's not for them. And you can argue not everyone can cycle 30 kilometers. By the way, I'm turning 50 this year. But not everyone can cycle 30 kilometers. Then this is not for them. And sometimes people, used to ask me, it's dangerous to cycle on that road. Yeah, if you're scared, it's not for you. But it's anyway dangerous to take a trip as well. We all and sometimes people are saying like there are a lot of it's polluted air. There's a lot of smoke coming from buses. Not good for us. Even one guy who's smoking told me like the air is polluted, but you might be breathing polluted air coming from buses. So, this is where the limit is, guys. Like if this is not for someone, it's not for someone. It's not for argument. But if you always talk about things which are not working, you will not be able to find solution. It might not be perfect, but in different ways, it might bring different positivity as well. So all in all, what I want to tell you is if you're going through a change, you are going through especially a crisis. I know a lot of backgrounds around us. Everyone is struggling. Sky is falling. Some of them are have good facts, but some facts are manipulated because they want to try their agenda. Let's keep politics apart. Be a solution-oriented one. Try to be creative and look for. I'm not saying like none of these examples will fit into everyone, but if you think carefully, you will find what works for you and be a solution-oriented person. Then the third thing that I want you to focus is, again, studying from home, working from home. That saves a lot of time and money. Invest it on something. I think if you are a undergraduate, look for what are the trending tech stacks if you want to join IT industry. So follow some Udemy courses, so Coursera courses, or even free courses. So make sure that you spend the time that you're saving, or the money you're saving, or all together, to invest on you, to prepare as someone who is ready to join the industry, as someone who is that industry is looking for. So spend that time wisely. You will not regret. And the fourth one, we need to understand the world as well. This world is sort of a different world. World is tough. Sometimes we might complain, it's not fair. It's not fair. That's what it is. Like we can keep complaining about it. The reason why I said no excuses is it doesn't matter why you can't do it. If you can't do it, you can't do it. So I can give you one example. When my daughter was in grade 8, during the dinner discussions, she brought up a topic about one of I think their maths teacher went on maternity leave, and the school couldn't find a teacher for a replacement, and the senior students are covering that period. Then she said that we don't have a teacher. It looks like we will not get a teacher, so we all will get low marks for maths. So my mind counter question, follow-up question to her is that if you get low marks for maths, you get low marks for maths. You can tell that story for many people. They will have empathy, they will listen to you. But if you are bad in maths, you're bad in maths. If you fail, all of us will fail. It doesn't matter why. So this is, I know this is unfair. This sounds like brutal, but that's how it is. We can't tell our customers we have a flower cut in Sri Lanka and we can't give you on time. No, we can't. Then the customer might probably understand. Yeah, we can understand. Then buy. We'll go for another country. So this world is tough. So don't think like, all the excuses that we gathered during the change, including fuel crisis, working from or studying from home. And, I know we have point to big inflation. All these, yes, it is tough, but make sure that you are not in a fantasy that people will give extra marks for our hardship. It doesn't work that way. The only place that we will get extra marks for the hardship is university cutoff. After that, it's all about health. It's also about your skills. It doesn't matter. Sometimes I think we all have heard those stories from, at least from someone, that, because of my bad English teacher, my English is bad, and bad maths teacher, I'm really bad in maths. And if you're bad in maths, you're bad in maths. Simple as that. So, no excuses. That is what I want to emphasize. It doesn't matter, for anything. Like, as I said, when it comes to businesses as well, customers will listen to all our stories. But if you don't do it, they will say, "Well." But if you take Sri Lanka and Sri Lanka, I mean, the one good thing is that we have track records that come out of crisis. Actually, this photo is not from Mangala. This is from, the central bank, the bomb blast. This is suicide attack done by LTT. So we had a years-long war where that when you get into a bus, you never know where you can get down from the bus. And two, how much damage that tsunami did. If you take Sri Lankans, because I have been working with different countries for more than 2 decades, especially developed countries. One thing I'm so proud of Sri Lanka is the resilient attribute that we have. That is probably common in most of the developing countries because we anyway had tough time from the day one in school to the tough education system. And even if you go to take a bus, you know that you never know when the bus is coming. But people from developed countries, if it is if the bus is late by 2 seconds, they get frustrated. So if you take the track records of us, I mean, it's in our genes. So I'm pretty sure. To be honest, I don't know. Because I'm not a politician. I'm not an economist. So because of that, I don't want to manipulate facts and tell my opinion about when country will come out of it. But at the same time, what I'm sure is that we will go through it and we will find different alternatives to cope with this change. And in this world, there are 2 types of games. One is finite games, the other one is infinite games. If you take cricket, it's a finite game, meaning that if you take T20s, you get 20 overs. If you're chasing a score, after 20 overs, if you couldn't chase, you lost the game. If you did, you won the game. Or in some scenarios, you will end up in a tie, then you get only 1 over. You can't give me another 10 overs, I will show you we can win. It's not how it works in finite. But life is infinite because you can fail today, but you get many more days ahead. So what I want you to tell is take life as a infinite game, because in infinite games, you get more and more chances. If you look at, war is a good example. Like if you take US versus Vietnam War, US wanted to win, Vietnam wants to fight until they die. So US has a finite game and Vietnam has infinite game. So most of the time, those who are in infinite game, they win because it's not about small wins or small fails. It's not about today or tomorrow. It's like exams, and we might fail exams, but you know that you have another chance. Life is like that. And same as in Russia and Ukraine. Russia wants to win. Ukraine didn't want to give up. And the two different approaches. It's about, for Russia, every day it's win or lose. For Ukraine, it's fight until they die. So be an infinite game player. And also, I was listening to one of the interviews done with Michael Schumacher, famous Formula One driver. So the one who is interviewing asked question like, what is the secret behind your success? So then Schumacher said, every time when I was off the road or off the track, I knew that I have half a second to come back to the track. So I think that is that's what I really want all of you to keep in your mind. We might go off the track for many reasons. It could be changes, crisis, consequences of inflation, a lot of things that I know that we all are going through hard time. But don't lose the focus. And as I said, navigating change is a life game. And even if you come out with this current crisis, there will be more changes, more crises ahead. But yeah, life is infinite. It's an infinite game. And yeah, that's all from me. I hope that I shared with you something insightful. Takeaway from this session is focus on positives and look for opportunities, and don't waste your time, and focus on what is the next best thing that you should do rather than worrying about why it has happened. And yeah, play this infinite game. Yeah, I think over to you, Bhavya. I guess we are going for a Q&A session.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir, for those inspiring words. I'm pretty sure those words flourished most of our participants' charisma and were able to make a change in their self-growth. As we all know, questioning is a must for a perfect closure. So now it's time for the Q&A session. I'm sure most of you have questions or doubts to clarify. Now it's your time. So feel free to unmute your mics and present your questions, or you can just put your questions into the chat box.
Bhavya, can I start with a question? No, it doesn't mean that we all can ask questions. But one question. Am I right that I assume that most of you are from IT degrees and looking for joining the IT industry, or is that a wrong assumption?
No, actually, we have the audience from different universities in Sri Lanka, and also the young professionals in the industry also there. Right. Okay, so there was a wrong assumption, but I just want to show that the opportunities in the IT industry, but at the same time, yeah, I know that different industries are having different challenges during this change of the crisis. Yeah, of course. So all of you can put your questions or concerns that you have to clarify into the chat box. So we have received one question from the audience. Shall I read it for you? Oh, sir, you are on mute, I think.
I know this is another thing that we got from this change that you always tell, like you are on mute, right? I can read it, but yeah, the question is, how can we manage our work in the best interest of the relevant company in the current economic crisis without compromising our mental health and being distracted as undergraduates we to enter the workforce soon? Yeah. So one small thing I'm not pretty sure I understood. Beginning of the question is about interest of the relevant company. I felt like someone is working for that company. At the same time, the workforce soon. So then I assume this is someone who is doing an internship with the company and about to finish the degree and join the workforce. Okay, I'll go to that assumption and tell how we can do that without compromising our mental health and being distracted as undergraduates. it's mentioned under graduates who integrated the workforce. So the answer is, as I said, there are a lot of noises, a lot of background noises, a lot of agendas behind those background noises. Let's not go for the political discussion, but it all depends on what is your priority. So if your priority is to get the work done as an intern, and also making sure that you're focusing on the studies as well. If you are doing an internship, I think the best way to do is make sure that you enjoy the work that you do. I think work-life balance is always mental health and getting stressed because of the work and so on. It is basically coming when we do things that we don't like. I'm pretty sure that you all pick things that you want to do and you would like to do. At the same time, the best answer that I can tell you is, if you are connecting it to economic crisis and being distracted from the background noise, is always when you hear those news and when you hear negative speculation, try to be factful rather than just digesting it, because unfortunately our culture is also train us in a way like believe whatever we hear. That is easier for teachers and that is easier for parents. That is why we were raised up like that everything what you hear we believe without questioning. Make sure that whenever you hear negative stories, think about, just try to analyze it. And also think about, yes, we hear this kind of story, what are the stories which they were not talking about? Because whatever the crisis that we go through, there are positivities around it, but every time bad incidents create news. So I mean, during the crisis, the best thing that you can do is to maintain your mental health, is to be factful rather than emotional, and every time when you have fear about the future, that how brain works, as I said. But at the same time, do your best. If you are doing an internship, I always tell intern, your goal is during the internship is make everyone forget you are an intern. So I have been working with interns. I can have one example. Actually, 10 years ago, I met an intern. He realized that we have a basketball team in the office, and we don't have a coach. So he is a coach, a basketball coach. He became our basketball coach during the internship. And when he left the company to join back the university, we all realized he's an intern. We always forgot. So if you're doing an internship at a company, make sure that they forget you are an intern. At the same time, when you get distracted, focus on something that you like, and focus on something that you can generate results, because generating results, it can be learning something new, or it can be finishing some work that you want to always finish. So focus on something productive that will keep you away from all this negative spiral. Second question: as an undergraduate, I always have that fear of how I'm going to work with the professionals in the future. Will I be able to handle everything as an employee? Can you give some advice on that? I think we all had that. We all had that. So sometimes when you even interview the undergraduates, I know that even you guys are calling me sir, but if you come to the office, that you can see some people are calling me Macha, right? So even though I'm from sea level, so if you take the industry is extremely friendly, and regardless of which company, they are extremely friendly, because if you take most of the companies, they know that teamwork is the best thing that they can have within the organization. So all HR companies are working really hard to have this the teamwork, collaboration attributes within their teams. Industry is very friendly as long as you're talented. So then that's come to the talented part. That's also something I don't want to exaggerate and create a fear. But if you do your work as an undergraduate, do your studies at the same time, make sure what industry is expecting, do your homework. I can guarantee, regardless of which industry, regardless of which company, everyone, those who are interviewing, they know what they can expect from a fresh graduate. We are not unrealistic here. For an example, in interviews, if you say that you know something, we will talk about it. If you say that I don't know about it, we don't talk about it, because we know that talking about something that someone doesn't know will not help us to gauge or understand that person. So make sure you do your homework, but you don't have to have any fear, because we call them professionals because they are nice people. They know how to work with each other. So don't worry. The industry is very friendly, but you have to do your homework. It's always is about whether you have done your homework or not. Yeah. Some of the IT startup companies I knew had laid off people due to current situation, not able to retain customers, not able to hire the best talent and other management. As a CEO of a company, what would be your best advice for those young startups to run continuous with the situation? Yeah, it all depends on different startups, and because the problem with startups is how can I say, they're not prepared to take the next step, and they start, but without knowing where they're going. That can be one reason. The other thing is, during this crisis, that can be a tough thing for some startups. And yeah, the best advice for startups that I can give is make sure you're starting a company, starting a startup, having longer term vision. For example, I know startups, those who are, they have only 10 people, but they are thinking like they have 50 people. So they have everything is in place, and business plans, roadmaps, and hiring plans. So they are pretty much prepared to grow like that. At the same time, they have backup plans as well. But I know that this can be a tough situation for some smaller startups because of the world recession. But my best advice is running continuously. It's like this, to be honest, that if starting a company is easy, then everyone would do it. That is the reality. So it's tough, and you need to have business plans. You need to know where you're going, and you need to prepare for tough times. Otherwise, there's a high chance for startups to fail. And also, if you, because 2 days ago, one of my friends called me and said that I'm going to join a startup, but the world is going to a recession. What is your advice? So what I told that person, now I'm talking about a different perspective. Let's talk about the founders of startups. Let's talk about those who are joining startup. What I told him, like, don't worry, because it's like be someone like bird, right? Birds are not worrying about the trees, right? If tree fall, they can fly, right? So my advice for you is like, don't be afraid to join startups, because startups are the best way to learn a lot of new things and polish up yourself. Even that startup fair, there are a lot of companies waiting for hire you. So the doors are open now, because almost all tech companies are looking for people right now, other than few companies. So don't worry about, you don't need to have job fear, or basically do your job and be like a bird. Don't worry about the tree that you are spending time. Sometimes change leads to anxiety and stress. How should we overcome that and maintain positive mindset in working environment? So it's like this actually. So if you take, if you go back to what I said about the brain, you know, the main reason for a lot of stress and anxiety is about we are thinking too much about what has happened or what is going to happen. It's not about what's now. Like for an example, do we have any problem right now? No, right? I mean, maybe some of you are a bit bored of listening to me. That can be a problem, but other than that, you don't have any problem right now. I know some of you are having power cuts, right, Bhakti? I think you are also having a power cut. You know, that kind of minor issues that you have at the moment. But if you take all other things you know, you have in your mind due to the change or due to the crisis, and if you take the reasons for anxiety or stress, it's not about what's happening now. It's about the speculation about the future or worrying about what has happened. So if you can learn how to focus, that will help you to, you know, stay away from worrying about things which hasn't happened. At the same time, that will help you to do the right thing right now. The other question, changing strategies and plans can largely affect our working lifestyle. How are we going to get on with that? What steps should be taken? Yeah, I think it's like this. When you join corporate, when you join organization, just think like an entrepreneur. I always tell, if you start to think as an entrepreneur, it's easier for you to understand why that particular company has taken those strategies. You know, most of the time, that is why that companies are also now promoting, we call it them entrepreneurs. That means entrepreneurs within organization. You don't own the company, but you work as that is my company, it's my product, and you try to, you know, do your best in the best interest of the company. So always try to think as an entrepreneur, even though it is not your company. Then it is easier for you to understand why some of those strategic decisions were taken. For example, if you join a company, if you hear that a company is going to start you know, another site in India, so don't worry. Like, you know, you might think like, hey, are they going to, you know, reduce the staff? If you start to think like that, then you will go into a negative spiral, and you will find those who are in the same negative spiral. Then, as I said, you know, collectively you might dig your own grave in your career. So, but if you think why that company has taken that decision, if you think as you own this company, it's easier for you to understand why they have taken those strategic decisions. And when you understand why, I think then that will help you to, you know, keep the engagement with the organization. Any more questions?
Yeah. So, sorry. So I think we are almost done with the questions from the audience. Do you all have any more questions?
Well, again, if you don't blame the organizing committee to organizing this on OR day, you have to blame me. It's because of me. Yeah.
We'll wait for a few more seconds, sir, for questions. So, all right. So, since we are not getting any more questions, we'll end the Q&A session now. So, seems like we got another new question. So, would you like to give an answer? Or
yeah, it's always a tricky question. You know, sometimes there are questions which doesn't have right or wrong answers, right? So the only fact which works for any kind of startups that I can give you is eliminating competition is not sustainable because eliminating competition, again, a finite game. You think like, you compete with someone, then you are going to win and you're going to destroy the other one. It doesn't work in that way because sometimes you don't know. I mean, if you are a startup and you don't know, most of the time, companies were beaten by unknown competitors, not by the known competitors. So eliminating competition is not sustainable at all. It doesn't matter whatever the type of startup that you are going to start. So always, do your best, understanding your customers, creating values. That is the only way to beat the competition, because most of the time, that for sure, like, when you think you know your competitors, because all these, I can't remember that platform, the before Facebook comes, there was one platform that I forgot those names, that they didn't know actually Facebook exists until they realized that everyone has changed to Facebook. And if you take, for an example, Nokia, they are one of the famous camera company, but they didn't replace by the same competitor. They were replaced by different technology, right? So they were replaced by smartphones with the cameras. So that is why that eliminating competitor is never going to work. Be the infinite game. Always understand your customers and your stakeholders. Create values. That's the only way to sustain.
All right. So as we are running out of time, we will end the Q&A session now. Looking forward to hearing you speak again. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your thoughts and for the great session. I hope everyone found something to think about. It gives us great pleasure that you accepted our invitation, especially given the erratic nature of current situation. Once again, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bhagya. Thank you, team. And thanks for inviting me. It's good to talk to you because you are the future of the country. And if you take IT, if you take the export industries that we have, like, we want to bring more foreign revenue. I think you guys will join the industry soon to get, pull off this from where we are. And at the same time, thanks for inviting and good luck with your big event in September.
Thank you so much, sir.
Bye. Have a nice evening.
Yeah, please accept the digital token of appreciation we have prepared for you as a tribute of our gratitude.
Thank you. It looks nice. I guess that you will email me that as well.
Sorry, sir?
I guess that you will email me that as well. Then I can.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So we are almost finished with today's session. But before we go, let's snap a group photo to remember 𝗦𝗽𝗍. Don't pass up this chance to be a part of the Let's Talk legacy. The virtual background will be shared in the chat box. You can now download it and put it as your virtual background. So I think 𝗦𝗲𝗎 ready to take the picture. You are there, 𝗦𝗲𝗎, right? Hello, 𝗦𝗲𝗎, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Can you hear me now?
Yes. So guys, it would be great if you all can turn on your cameras and put the virtual background, which is shared in the comment section.
We'll wait a few moments to take the screenshot. Okay?
Sure.
You have to say cheese.
Yeah. Okay. Then on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, cheese. Thank you.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us in taking the group photo. A kind reminder, a feedback form will be shared in the chat box for all of you to share your thoughts and any pros and cons of this session. So that brings us to the end of the last event for tonight. It's time to remark the closure of today's event. And as in any event, there are always those that require thanks and recognition for everything that they did to make this event a possibility. May I now invite 𝗬𝗲𝗿𝗲, Webmaster of IEEE Let's Talk for the year 2022 to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you, 𝗬𝗲.
Thank you, 𝗬𝗲. Good evening, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to thank you all on behalf of the IEEE Young Professional Let's Talk Organizing Committee. First, I extend my gratitude to our guest speaker, Mr. Mangala Perera, for devoting time from his busy schedule to grace the event. Thank you so much, sir, for inspiring and encouraging us with your words. I'm pretty sure it's very valuable for our young professionals. And also, I would like to express my gratitude to all participants of the event for their active presence and contributions to making this event a great success. After that, a special thank you to the Executive Committee of IEEE Young Professionals Sri Lanka for all the guidelines that you have given to organizing this event successfully. Finally, I must thank the organizing team, volunteers who worked to make the event perfect. Thank you everyone once again for making this event a great success. Over to you.
Thank you very much, 𝗬𝗲, for that fantastic vote. That brings us to the end of our today's session. I highly appreciate your presence today and know that you all found this session to be very didactic. In the upcoming Spark Your Inner Self episodes, we shall see you once more. I'm your host, 𝗬𝗲𝗿𝗲, signing off for today. Stay safe and have a great night.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Good night, sir. Bye.